Okay. Allô? Okay. I'd like to say a word about what it is really like to be a Westerner. Because Daniel here thinks he knows what it is to be a Westerner. And every Westerner thinks he discovered the Western land because that's what Westerners are. The other Westerners in the room will understand what I'm talking about, even if they don't want to admit it. So, what it is to be a Westerner. A Westerner is having a story to tell. And I'm here to tell you a story. This is a family story that made me want to question Daniel's vision. It was on a sunny Belgian afternoon, with some drops of rain as in any Belgian Sunday afternoon. I had been waiting in front of the stove for my family recipe to finally cook, so that Daniel's family could eat after a long hike through the woods. I live in the forest region, below altitude 100, where the sun hits the ground and water floods the streets. I knew after their long trip from Saint-Gilles that they would be very hungry. All was going well. The onions were starting to caramelize. The anchovies looked gray. Family traditions filling the room with an ancient smell of onions, something shared by generations and generations, from my point of view. And then I saw Daniel through the bow window, his two children freezing and smiling as they usually do. I know it was time to cheer them up with a good homemade pizza saladière from the south of France, where my ancestors grew and struggled in the blazing sun. As I opened the door, a cold wind filled the house, but the scent of roasted onions stayed in the house. I greeted them with joy and took out the dish from the stove as I just did. Daniel looked joyful, but suspicious. He didn't have the words. He didn't know how to name the pizza saladière. And all he came up with, oh, is this a quiche? And when you know the difference between Alsace-Lorraine and Nice, Côte d'Azur, the south of France, you don't really appreciate the Westerner's attitude to family tradition. So a certain silence filled the room, leaving no place for the onions. It was just Daniel and I looking at each other in silence. A shitty situation. So I went on to politely tell him the difference not only of climates, but of ingredients. No pig, no cream, no eggs, just flour, butter, onions, anchovies, and olives. All seems to have calmed down. The kids were screaming and yelling. The silence was gone. We could finally eat and let all this behind. But then it happened. It happened right on it. So it happened because every Westerner has a specific idea of taste and food. Westerners make food, think food, eat food, shit food. They are survivors, creators. So he had to say it. He had to make an improvement to my recipe. He wanted to add some cumin. So that it would resemble in taste something he knew and liked. He was on my ground, playing with my recipe and trying to get inside my memories. And that's fucked up. It's like wanting to cut out a face in an old family picture and replacing it by his. It's what Westerners do. They don't take your land. They change your history. But from one Westerner to another. This can't happen. It ends with a dreadful look that look like no other looks. Movies are based on those looks. So tonight, to prove my statement, I made the same ancestral recipe on Daniel's turf, on his ground, here in Saint-Gilles. So you can judge for yourself. Like it or not, that's my story. And my way to stay in good terms with Danielle. Thank you. Hope you appreciate. So this one has cumin on it, especially for Danielle. So please, Danielle, be the first to taste your own ancestral recipe. So it's based on a true story.